Good morning, everybody. This is Van Hargis of Van Hargis Horsemanship, and of course, this is the Ranch Road. Appreciate you guys joining me this morning. Let's get our old Chevy here cranked up and get the AC cranking. It's going to be a good one today. Had a little shower yesterday. We're so blessed for that. Not exactly sure how much rain we got, but man, we were needing it really badly, and so blessed to have gotten a little bit. Sadly for us down here in South Texas, when we get a little bit of rain and it's followed up by pretty good amount of sunshine the following day, it tends to make things even more humid. But you know, that's always about the good and the bad, isn't it? I mean, there's always a yin and a yang. And so almost always there's that seems to kind of balance things out. But you know, you could fuss at, like, oh darn, it's going to be humid and hot today. Or it's, man, we're so blessed to have that rain. We're so grateful to have it. And I choose that more positive attitude. I mean, I've lived that life to where everything was negative, and quite frankly, I didn't like it. But you know, we have a choice. We do have a choice, and sometimes for those who have been raised in that environment, who have been surrounded by that negativity, or if we've been exposed to it for a certain amount of time, sometimes we just get kind of caught up in that negativity, and before you know it, that becomes our practice. So we have to learn that we have to kind of retrain ourselves sometimes on how to be positive. We have to retrain ourselves on how to readjust and how to look at things in a better way. Well, what has that got to do with horse training? Well, to me, it has everything in the world to do with horse training. We could always look at how bad a horse is or whatever the case may be, but we could look at that whenever a horse makes a mistake of any sort, that gives us an opportunity to practice our skills at communication. So what is the positive side of something negative happening? The positive side is you get a chance to reinforce the lesson that you're trying to teach. You can think about what I can do to communicate that better so that the horse can better understand. What can I do to be a little bit more deliberate about my cues or about my communication, my body positioning? What can I do to help this horse get the correct answer more quickly? You see, too many times I think we put horses in a situation to where it's a do or die type deal, and it's either all or nothing, and we set really high standards, which that's a good thing. You can ask my students. I'm always telling everybody, if you want to ride champions, by golly, you got to have that championship mentality, and you got to hold yourself as well as your horse to extremely high standards. We do not like to train C and B students here. We want A students, period. We don't even want A and B students. We want A students, period. But in order to have that, you've got to have very high standards. But how you achieve it, though, you see, is a lot to do with your perspective and a lot to do with your attitude. For example, I'm going to reiterate again about that situation. If a horse does make a mistake, which quite frankly, it's good that they do. That's how they learn. They learn from making mistakes. Our job is to correct those mistakes. And then before you know it, the horse's job is to train us not to correct them. You see, our commitment to them is to be more committed to their success than what they are. And our commitment to them is to correct them every time they need it, but without being nagging about it or without micromanaging, but to set that horse up for success, give them an opportunity to be successful, and get out of their way for an opportunity for them to do what it is that we ask them to do. And then their empowerment is they get to train us how to leave them alone. In other words, when they do their job and they do their job correctly, we then leave them alone. So their job is to train us to leave them alone. So think about perspective today, and I'm going to close with this. Many years ago, I was living in New Zealand. In fact, from about 89 to part of 91, I lived in New Zealand, and I kind of had a surrogate grandfather while I was over there, kind of an older fella, and if his daughter's watching, all the respects in the world to Mr. Larg McVicker, who was kind of like my grandfather over there in New Zealand. He was good to give me great advice. And one day I had a chance to go with him and another gentleman named Lester Higgins to go gather some of Lester's cattle. And we did so on horseback. I found out later that was kind of just for me, because Lester generally got his cattle up with a four-wheeler. But he let me kind of bring up those little bulls that we were gathering that day on horseback. Well, we get them up there, and Lester's pens were a little bit more built for sheep than they were for cattle, even though he had survived this situation for quite some time. But this one particular corral that we put them in was a little bit flimsy, I guess, for what we were trying to get done. And as we're working the cattle through, I hear a board crack, and I look up, and one little bull calf that we was working had gotten out of the corral through a broken board and was kind of trotting off back through the pasture where we'd just come from. And I yelled out, "Hey, Laura, we got a cow out. No worries, mate. Shall be right." I said, "All right." So we just kept working. A little while later, I heard another board break, and another steer gets out, or another little bull calf gets out. "Hey, Laura, you got another one got out. No worries, mate. Shall be right." So this goes on 3 or 4 times, and I'm beginning to wonder, number one, who's Shelby Wright? Is Shelby Wright some sort of New Zealand hero that they kind of, whenever something like this happens, they kind of give homage to this hero? So I asked Laurie later. He said, "Sir, who's Shelby Wright?" So, "Oh, no, mate, not Shelby Wright. She will be all right." So, "Oh, good deal." You see, so even though the cattle that we were working were getting out, Laurie's attitude was like, "No worries, we'll get to them." And later on, he even said, "No worries, they can't get off the island." You see, so I guess that experience really helped me rethink things. You see, helped me. Yeah, we didn't want those bull calves to get out. We didn't want them to break out. But in the long run, what did it really hurt? I mean, if anything, we were on horseback, so it's going to give us an opportunity to regather those cattle and just do it again. So yeah, we would have loved for everything to go perfectly without a hitch. But at the same time, it was really good experience for us. It was good experience. The lesson I got out of it was not that Lester needed to have a better, more strongly built corral. What I got out of it was my attitude and perspective. Shelby Wright, mate, she can't get off the island. I'll never forget it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that story today. Hope you think about your perspective. Hope you keep a positive attitude. Thank God for the rain yesterday, and we can deal with the humidity with the blessing that we got before. So think about that perspective. Thank you guys for joining me on the Ranch Road. And until next time, this is Van Hargis with Van Hargis Horsemanship.